will keep it as short as possible. A lot of the stuff in here is common sense. It has to do with managing money and taking control of your finances. Under control. That will really bring a lot of peace in your life if you can keep your personal finances under control. Some tips on controlling your finances. Know your bank balance, know what you spend, don't buy on impulse, and make a budget. These are all things you know, things you've heard, maybe in a consumer class, but it really is important, especially those of you that are just starting out, to make a budget, get in the habit of keeping track of all of your finances. The key to success in meeting any financial challenge is to make sure you always control them rather than letting them control you. And the first step in gaining control is to make sure you keep track of your finances. It's not that difficult, but it does require diligence. So to make a budget, I'm sure you're all aware, you would list your income, list your expenses, subtract them, and see what your net cash flow is. And you always want your net cash flow to be positive. When it's negative, well, we'll talk a little bit about that, but you certainly will have to make some adjustments as needed. So here are some questions to think about. I know we're not in class, so I can't get your immediate comments or feedback, but I will give you some of the ideas that my students in class came up with. So the first one is, why is it important to understand your personal finances? Some of the thoughts they came up with was peace of mind, let's see, what else do I have? To make good and wise decisions. Ooh, there's a bit of a lag here. And another student came up with an interesting comment, which was to educate your children. Regarding crucial things you should do if you hope to keep your finances under control, some of the ideas they came up with were budget, create a budget, obviously spend less than you make, and don't impulse buy. So those were some comments that they made in class today. And then finally, third part, what can a person do if they have a positive monthly cash flow, and what can they do if they have a negative monthly cash flow? Well, if you have a positive cash flow, you can save, you can invest, and one student said you can make extra payments, which is always a good idea. And how about negative? Well, there's some problems if you have a negative monthly cash flow. It means you're spending more than you're making, so you just need to make some cutbacks. Yeah, I'll just say cutback. So we're going to look at a lot of examples to help you in understanding personal finances. So let's look at this first one. So suppose you drive an average of 400 miles a week in a car that gets 18 miles to the gallon. Gasoline's priced at $3 per gallon. Well, actually, that's probably a little bit higher, maybe $3.40, $3.50. Approximately how much would you save each year on gas if you had a car that got 50 miles a gallon? So let's just look at a comparison. 400 miles a week in a car that gets 18 miles per gallon. In order to figure out that cost, I need to know how many gallons am I consuming. So 400 miles a week divided by 18, I get 18 miles per gallon, will tell me how many gallons of fuel I use. Oh, let's see, I don't have my calculator, but I think I do have this number. It comes up to be like 22.2 gallons. And if we actually go with the number stated on here, even though it's a little bit more than $3, if I multiply those two out, the cost per month of driving this car that gets 18 miles per gallon would end up being about $66.66. Okay, so what if we had one of those cars that got much better gas mileage, in this case 50 miles a gallon? I'll still travel 400 miles a week, but now I get 50 miles a gallon, so I would divide that by 50 to determine how many gallons it would take me to do my commuting that week. So 400 divided by 50 would be 8 gallons. And let's still go with the $3 per gallon rate. So we would be spending quite a bit less, actually $24 a week on gas as opposed to $66. So those new cars that have really great gas mileage can pay off with respect to, you can have a great savings with respect to the amount of fuel that you purchase. All right, so let's look at some other examples. Now, this has to do with just sort of those things you do daily, maybe an indulgence. You might get coffee every day, a couple of sodas a day, buy some lunch or some breakfast. I want you to figure out based on, and we're going to base this on 52 weeks in 1 year. And we're also going to say there's 365 days. And there goes my phone. So let me pause this. I'm glad I took that call. Now, where were we? Oh, 365 days in 1 year. Anyway, this can be eye-opening because it gives you an idea of those little things you do every week or every day, how they add up over a year. So I'm going to take a second. I want you to figure some of these out. I'm going to just sit here quietly while you do that. Compare your numbers as you work it out. Compare the numbers you get to the ones I'm going to write here. Okay, so here are the numbers I came up with. Check your numbers, make sure they match with mine. You can see there how I wrote out how I got each value. But buying lunch out every day in a year, over $2,000. 2 sodas a day, if you're here on campus, they're $1.25 a piece, is almost $1,000 a year. These little incidentals add up to quite a bit if you do them consistently every week throughout the year. So this can be eye-opening, and you can think about what's something that you do that's maybe not listed and find out what its cost is per year. You might be surprised. Okay, so let's take a look at this. You have a clothes dryer, costs $25 a month to operate. A new efficient dryer is $620, and it has an estimated operating cost of $15 a month. So the question is, how long will it take for the new dryer to pay for itself? And this is going to be a little bit longer maybe than what you thought. But think about these two values. Right now, your operation costs are $25 a month. With the new one, it's $15 a month, which means you'll be saving $10 a month with the new washer. So the savings that you have per month with the new washer is $10. How many months will it take for that $10 to add up to the cost of the clothes dryer? So how many $10 would it take to make $620? So $620 divided by 10 would be, and that's $10 a month. So that would be 62 months, which is about little wiggly approximate lines. It's approximately equal to 5.1 years. So the purchase of the new efficient dryer would pay for itself in 5+ years. So those are things you need to think about when you're going to make a purchase. Okay, now for these next examples. I'm going to do example 4 and maybe example 5, and then I'll tell you what to do with the last two. Okay, so example 4. We want to know if we have a positive or a negative cash flow. So you can work on that. Actually, I'm just going to pause it. You work on it. You can pause the video, and then I'll put my numbers up here after, and we can check the work. I just don't want to spend a lot of time writing on here. I want this to be as short as possible. So if my calculations are correct, I get an income of $17,000 per year and expenses of $19,200 per year. So what would you say about the cash flow? Negative. Okay, work on the next one. See what it comes up to be. I'm going to pause it so I can do the values. Okay, so I got income to be a total of $27,600, expenses $24,420. Please check my work. And so what we see here is this particular person has a positive cash flow. Now for these last two examples. So for these last two problems, example 6 and example 7, I'd like you to work these out and turn them in to me on Friday, September 27th, if you're in my Monday, Wednesday, Friday class, or on Monday, September 30th, if you're in my Monday, Wednesday class. So you will turn those in to me in class, and I will see you when I get back.